the amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening and happy Sunday. I'm Crystal L. Gunn, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. So I'm grateful for those of you who have tuned in all through seasons 1, 2, and 3 as we continue in season 4. And so while you're getting settled for the show, please hit the share button, share Amazing Women Speak so your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. So how is it that we go out of our way to keep promises to others, often breaking the promises that we've made to ourselves? And why is it so easy to break a promise to ourselves? And what is the ultimate price that we pay for doing so? And so at the beginning of this year, I made one small promise to myself. And keeping that promise has done so much, and it laid the path for me to make and keep more promises to me, for me, and about only me. So let's talk about it. The importance of honoring self-promise, exploring how commitment to oneself can transform your life, elevate your goals, and strengthen your inner confidence. It's time for us to reclaim the power of promises kept to ourselves and making us the number one priority. Promises kept, the power of commitment to self. First, let's see, can we actually get Michele in here with no airport challenges? Welcome, ma'am, and thank you as always for saying yes to Amazing Women Speak, and thank you for your commitment as you show up, all while we have the challenges of you traveling to do good work.
Absolutely. Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here and, as always, sitting next to you. So I'm hopeful that this conversation is going to go as well as we needed to from my perspective. And I'm also clear that the right folks will be in the room for the right conversation in the event that technology does not allow me to engage in the conversation. So I'm really excited to be able to talk about this in a way in which elevates and focuses on the importance of putting self first, promising ourselves a thing and honoring that thing to the benefit of all of the other things that we make promises to. And so I'm really excited to have our guests come in and talk about why this is so important and why is it so challenging, and how do we move beyond the things that hold us from keeping those promises to ourselves. Samika, welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samika Douglas, and I am all things community here in the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Love that.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. And so I like to say every week that this is the fastest hour of your day. This conversation goes so quick. So we don't have a lot of time to spend in shallow waters. We like to just launch deep and get into the conversation. And I always like to take a step back before we move forward. And so before we talk about the importance of promises kept, Samika, share with us the promises that were broken and what it cost you in your journey before you recognize the importance of making and keeping those promises to yourself.
Oh, we jumped right into it, didn't we?
Right here.
Promises, it seemed like those are the promises that I break the most. Those are every promise to myself. Because we tend to, as you stated, push self to the back burner. So promises that I have broke to myself was, for instance, getting my doctoral. I've been saying I was going to get a doctoral degree since I've been speaking of higher education. And 14 years after getting my first bachelor's degree, I still have yet to continue that on, because I have placed everyone else's need before mine. Although I was married with children, infant, everything, working on a bachelor's, because it was so much on top of me trying to do that and be the head of the household, as well as still being there for everyone else's needs, I had to put my own things on and break my own promises to myself. So that's a promise I'm still keep promising myself every year. I'm gonna go back to school and continue on. But yeah, so that's one that because of that, it has it. I would say that it has just delayed things because delayed don't mean denied. So it hasn't really denied me for anything because, as I always say, what the Lord has for me is for me. It's just up to me on when I get there. Because of the which road I traveled to get what was for me. So I know it's still there for me. It's just when I get up to actually go do it. We have to remember that we always pray for things and ask the Lord to do things, but it's also up to us to also do some things. Faith without works is dead.
So still have the doctoral degree in the hopper. You still plan on doing it, right?
Yes.
And being a wife, being a mother, doing all things in the community has delayed that, right?
Yes.
And I often say nothing happens until the exact moment that it's supposed to happen, right? However, in that, so what else has been delayed though? Like, has it become, because you talked about you always put yourself in a back burner. So how has continuing to do that delayed other things though? Because if we, it goes back to, if we don't take care of ourselves, how do we take care of somebody else? How do we pour into others? How do we get the things done that we want to do? So there are repercussions for not keeping the promises to ourselves.
Yes.
How has it impacted in maybe not that one specifically, but impacted anything that you're doing, from the work that you do in the community, your own health, the relationships that you have with others? How does the breaking of promises negatively impact that?
By prolonging the me getting to that finish line, it has impacted my growth in my careers as well. I could be somewhere else in my career than further than what I am now. So on many levels, from the financial standpoint to the career standpoint, even as within the household, because of me back in my mind, I still know this is a promise that I have not kept to myself. So sometimes even doing things, sometimes I may do it, but that ain't really what I want to do, or that hold a little resentment in doing those things, but I'm still doing them because I still have that love and care, and I'm a problem solver for others instead of myself. So I'm still there for them, but now I'm lacking that on myself, where now I'm not even getting the attention that I need for me. I'm more so running away. So it may have been a fear mechanism at the same time that I'm using to assist other people instead of working on myself. So it was a fear mechanism at the same time to get away from that, because I'm scared that I might fail at it.
And what's so interesting is that oftentimes we don't even see it as a promise unkept to ourselves because of the commitments to making sure that other people are well, that other folks have what they need, that I'm responsible for the outcome of these individuals or that situation. And so even though you're saying to yourself, I'm going to put this off and I'm going to do this later, you don't even recognize that you literally are not keeping the promise that you kept to yourself, and that it's costing you something, because you may see a family member have a victory. You may see your child succeed in something, and you claim that, and rightfully so, as a win for yourself. But oh, what happens when we miss the ultimate victory of when we keep that promise to ourselves? So talk to us about the transition when you began to realize, wait a minute, right? Like, me denying and delaying this thing really is costing me something that I can no longer afford to pay. And I now need to prioritize that promise. How do you make that shift? Or how did you make that shift?
I started making that shift. Actually, it sparked doing I think it was like an icebreaker at work. And it was like I had to start focusing on me in order to focus on my community, in order to focus on my family. I had to first, as you stated earlier, get me together. I can't continue to pour into people out of an empty vessel. So ways to do that, I start trying to increase my self-esteem, starting to keep small promises to myself. If it's nothing but on Friday, I'm going to get my nails done, or Saturday going to get my hair cut, whatever the case may be, little small things to reinforce that I could make those small goals and do them, and gradually let the goals increase to reinforce the beliefs that I'm capable of doing these things, and that I'm also deserving of these goals. Also enhancing my motivation. Because when you getting that positive feedback. So I start taking little things, like when some people leave me notes and I'll hang them up, I start making me more vision boards as well, giving myself, sometimes I have to affirm myself, and that also helped actually increase the self-esteem and the motivation at the same time. And then just prioritizing things. What do I want? What is it, my end game? What's the end goal? And just staying focused on those promises to myself. And something this year that not just my pastor, but it seemed like a couple of different pastors that I tend to listen to have been saying is avoid the distractions. So start being aware of those distractions, the distractions of the distractions, even in the world we live in, all the different distractions that come up, from P. Diddy, what's going on with him, to what's going on with Trump. So all those little distractions, improve the focus on prioritizing just yourself. Also, just keeping that strong foundation of those promises to yourself. Those, like I say, so start with those little promises. So building that foundation and just keeping it. And that's how I have started within myself, just making those little promises to myself. I start dating myself, relearning myself, and doing things like that, so I could understand who I am and who I'm doing this for, and not just going to do this to say I did this or things like that. I'm doing this for a reason, and it's for me, not for anyone else. Gratification.
I know I made this promise to myself earlier this year, and I can remember the episode. I don't remember the title of the episode, but I remember the episode when I talked about, it was after the first time that I went to a sound therapy session, right? And Michele was clear to say, okay, so when's the next one scheduled? Because she knows that I was never good at that thing. But one of the things that I realized was making that promise and showing up every Sunday for that sound therapy session was transformative in my life, right? From just feeling better, being calm. Like, I'm this super overachiever, so it allowed me to level out. But the biggest thing that I found that it did was it allowed me, I don't know, it's almost like it gave me permission to make more promises to me, but also to keep the promises that I was making to myself and holding myself accountable, so that when I would do whatever the thing was, afterwards, I would always say, promises kept. And that affirmation of just saying it out loud that I did it. Let's say then there was something that I did not want to get up to do, and I said, well, I have to do this every day, but I didn't do it. That promises kept would ring in my ear and in my head, and it would then make me get up and do the thing. We often on this show talk about go ahead, Michele.
Yep. So 2 things. One, Crystal, we really love hearing from our listeners, and I already feel like I'm holding one hand up to the sky and the other one down below, just trying to keep my signal. So please continue to monitor the chat and invite folks in and lift up their comments. So wanted to share that. Two, Chris, one of the things that we do on this show is intentionally slow down and talk about the individual steps, right? And so before you started talking about your promise kept, I wanted to go there because I remember the episode as well. And I remember texting you to make sure that you were going. And you didn't start going every week, right? Like you started and then you wouldn't go. So talk to us about the steps in between, because there's that transition that happens where it becomes a thing that you no longer will give up versus the thing that I might do here or there and still give myself credit for it. Like, what did you miss the time that you didn't go that said, nope, this is feeding me, this is transforming me, and I have to show up?
So when I went that very first time, so for those that don't know, sound therapy is like they play instruments. Literally, you just either sit there or lay there, and there's these instruments, and sound is healing is over 40,000 years old. And the first time that I went, I was like on level 15 when I walked in the door, not in a good way, but I was on level 15 when I walked in the door. And for 45 minutes, just laying there and hearing these instruments being played and the impact it had on me when I walked out, I was at a level 3. And I had gone on a Wednesday and I could not go the following Wednesday. And I could easily over the days feel the stress and all of that starting to come back. And I was like, this doesn't work for me. I have to go back in and do this again. And it was easy for me to say, oh, I got a client, I can't go. Oh, I got to wait because I have a client, and I keep pushing things off and keep pushing things off. And it was remembering how I felt when I walked out of that place for the very first time. And it's Bloom Transformation Center is where I go. And it really was, it really was transformative to me, but it was how I felt afterwards. I was more even keeled. And the more I went, the more I showed up, the better I felt, but also the better I felt because I was now showing up for me. People would say, Crystal, you got to do this for you. You have to do these things. You need to take a vacation. And because I love what I do, I absolutely positively love what I do. I will do it all day, every day, and continue to put me on the back burner. But one of the things that I found when I started putting me first, I was still able to do all of the things that I love to do. I was still able to impact all of the people that I impact, but it was easier for me to do the things. I wasn't tired. I wasn't exhausted. I wasn't stressed out. I wasn't nervous or irritable about some of the things. And interestingly enough, everything became easier. And because I was more level, because I probably continue to vibrate at a higher frequency, the things that I need in order to do what I do come to me more easily and readily, right? So going through that, and it at sometimes was a challenge because I could easily say, no, I'm not going to get up and do that. I'm just going to, do this work that I need to do, or I'm going to write this course or create this other document. So it definitely was a process, but the outcome was me being healthier and then me being able to do what I do. I don't know. I want to say better. It literally improved my ability to do the very thing that I love to do. So, yeah. So, Michele, you missed a whole lot of that, but.
And I would just add that is because when you were challenging yourself to meet those goals, you were expanding your comfort zone. So by doing that, expanding your comfort zone, you was building that trust also within yourself that you was able to achieve those goals. So, developing that trust within you, that's how you was overcoming that self-doubt.
Absolutely. I can recall, I think it might have been season 1. we had a guest on, it was Kenyatta, and she said she was having a conversation with her therapist about trusting herself. And her therapist says, no, you don't trust you because you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself. Right. So you can't possibly trust yourself if you won't even keep the very simple promises that you make to yourself. It took me 2 seasons after that to realize I needed to keep a promise to myself. But it's one of those things. And it goes back to that conditioning. We as Black women always put in, we solve the problems, we do everything, we take care of everybody first to the detriment of ourselves every single day. And we feel like we get to do this thing and can operate at this next level when we're really not even full because we won't keep the promises to ourselves.
Right.
Why did you pick this episode? Because, so for those that's listening, there's always we have topics and dates scheduled, and we allow the guests that we know we want on the show to pick the topic that speaks to their soul. Samika, why did you pick this topic?
Because this is something that I'm actually working on now, self. As I stated earlier, I have always placed everyone else in front of me. This last year, I have been going through a lot of things, but I have reflected over my life and realized that I have went through a lot of things in life, but I never placed self first in all of the things that I have been through. And just understanding that you have to make you the number one priority, regardless of what that look like, whether it's setting times for your goals, saying no to those distractions, just practical self-care. We have to start loving on us. After my children are grown, 22 and 18. So it's like, now what do I do? What do I do? Like, I'm not going to football games. I'm not going to basketball games. I don't have to go pick up this child and take them over there, doing all those things. So now it's just me. What do I do?
Did you watch your mother or aunties or grandma do this exact same thing? Put everybody else first?
Yes, my grandmother. My grandmother put everyone first. Everyone. She took care of 8 kids as a single mother, as well as all of the other drama that came along with it. And then, too, a lot of us Black families, we have those hidden traumas that affect us as well. And so I had some of those as well. So it was time to be honest to myself, start putting Samika number one. And so when I was reading all the different ones, a few of them actually jumped out at me. But because this is the space that I'm currently in, where Samika is starting to be number one, where Samika is the main focus. I am, like I say, all things community. I do love my community, and I'm going to continue to pour in my community. But I also noticed that even I can't do that if I'm not here for the community, and that's taking care of me. Myself, my health, my mental, and all of those things. I can't tell everyone else to take care of themselves if I'm not doing
it. So while Michele is coming off mute at the library, I just want the listeners, if you will, drop a comment if you find yourself in this same space, breaking promises to yourself, because the way that we start to heal is, Michele always says, you got to name the thing, right? The way that we start to heal and overcome this is being able to admit and recognize that we're doing the thing. So drop a comment if you feel like this is something that you do, breaking promises to yourself. Go ahead, Michele, if you can.
So, Samika, earlier you talked about fear. What would you?
Uh-oh, we lost you. Oh, and
you said, repeat the question. What will we what?
No, go back, Michele, because you're on mute. Okay. Indefinitely frozen. So we gonna let her jump in.
Right. I was about to
So
say,
yeah,
right in the chat.
exactly. And as people are sounding off in the comments, like for sure, same space. I do this all of the time. And the reason that I asked that question, most people on here know that I also do financial education. So I'm a financial strategist. And I constantly talk about we don't know why we operate the way that we do, and how so much of this in that we have, again, I lead with finances. So, but I always see the correlation. So when I talk about how our financial relationship was, defined outside of us, a lot of times just the way we operate in general is defined outside of us. And that's why I asked the piece about, did you see your mom or your grandma doing it? Because our financial relationship, and then also all of our other type of relationships, have been created and defined by what we inherited. And so
Yes.
I often say, if the generational curses, habits, thought practices, all of that, if those that are hindering us are to stop with you, then the new system of success has to start with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want my child, my daughter's 23, I don't want she a Virgo and an only child, so she puts herself first always. But I don't want her to wind up in this same boat, always breaking promises to herself. So what are the steps? You mentioned that you have two children. Is either of your children
one of each?
What are you doing to ensure that this habit stops with you and doesn't continue on with your daughter?
Well, I'm trying to now change some of those generational, as they say, curses or the cycles that has been going on, by helping her understand some of the things to help prioritize herself. If we building even on though, like you say, that financial literacy piece, giving them the education. We try to soften the blow with our children, because we don't want them to go through what we went through. We don't want them to do what, but sometimes going through that struggle we went through helps them, helps lay that foundation to help build that character up for them. But some of the tips that I help and I give to her is just to remember you. But my daughter was the only child for the first 5 years, and she still thinks she's the only child sometimes. So I don't have to tell her or give her certain tools to tell her to remember self. She gonna remember self. Okay, she gonna make time for herself. And now I love that about her, though. She still have that love in her as her mother, because she stopped going to school for law to end up going to school for nursing, because she cared about people instead. But yes, she knows to set those clear visions and clear goals. Define what you want to achieve. Be specific. Is it measurable? Is it achievable? What is it relevant to? Those type of things, like they say, the SMART goals. Then again, schedule time for yourself. Like I say, she scheduled her time. She makes sure. I be trying to get, can we go on the mother-daughter date? She's like, Mom, this is my time. So, but dedicate.
This generation is a little different. A
little different. And I like that for them, though.
Absolutely.
But even us, I am a millennium, so even some of my other millennials, I tell them as well, though. Schedule that time for yourself. You have to dedicate specific time to yourself. I put me on my own calendar, because I know sometimes it could get away from me. I love the work so much that I continue to just keep going. I had one boss who used to tell me all the time, slow down, because if something happened to you today, we posting your job tomorrow.
I used to say it to my staff when I worked for Citibank, and I used to say the thing. I managed a processing team at Citi, and we used to have 3 days a week. The EMS truck would be parked in a circular driveway, and I said, you know what? You're letting this job stress you out and control you. But if they wheel you out of here on a stretcher, I'm just gonna break up. I'm just gonna divvy up your roster and give it to the rest of the team. So you have to take care of yourself. You mentioned earlier, you talked about fear, right?
Mhm.
What would you say to your younger self about acknowledging and addressing fear as the thing to embrace and not avoid?
Take it on head on. Embrace it because it's going to build you up. It again, it's that about that foundation. It's strengthening that inner confidence. Um, when you face that fear, again, it's showing you that it's overcoming that self-doubt, honoring your self-promises. You gradually, by facing that fear, start chipping away at self-doubt, and you start overcoming things you thought you could never even overcome, and seeing things being accomplished that you thought you couldn't accomplish.
I've heard it said that we're supposed to run toward the things that we fear because it's a reason why that fear is there. And we don't, I believe, we're not afraid to fail because we fail at things every single day. I think it is that the fear of, oh my God, what if this actually happens? What if we succeed
That's it.
at this thing? Right. And I had to learn that do it afraid, do it anyway. And I would push my daughter, like she's in this whole new space in her life. She's going to school to get her master's. And so she moved to a whole nother city, has her own apartment, all of these things, right? And she didn't know anybody at the school. She didn't, right? And so it was the nervousness of going to an event and not knowing people at the event, but showing up anyway. And she would say, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, but you're gonna do it anyway, because that's how you get better at a thing. That's how you start to elevate, right? Fear holds us back from a lot of things. Fear, and I think guilt. When we talk about this thing of breaking the promises to ourselves to keep promises to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about your grandmother raising 8 kids, single mother, right? Raising
Yes.
8 children. How much do you think winds up being guilt that made her go out of her way, break promises to herself so that she could do the things for other people, and especially those 8 children?
I think most of it was guilt. That's the thing. Fear and guilt are two of the most most powerful emotions that can significantly influence our thoughts, our behaviors. So understanding those impacts can help us manage them a little better. But we also have to understand, again, it's that underlying trauma, that we don't forgive ourselves for things. And so we use that guilt and that fear and all of those things pile on one on top of each other and bury the true us. So we have to start removing. It's almost like that onion. You have to start removing those different layers to get to who you really are. And that's again how this spoke to me, this specific episode, because I am at that stage now, removing those layers. Who are you, Samika? You have to start forgiving Samika in order to move on, because also I'm in a different light also spiritually as well. So I know I'm trying to start looking at me through the lens of God. How do God see me? He continues to forgive me. So I have to start forgiving myself as well for certain things. I can't.
What was the catalyst to get you there, though? Because that's extremely powerful. When you talk about we have to unlearn a whole lot of things. We have to go back, feel, and get and the self-work is hard. But what was the catalyst that got you there that said, there really isn't another choice? I have to do this.
Just wanting better for my children, not wanting them to go through what I went through growing up, what I went through as a young mother, what I went through as a Black woman, what I went through as a community member, what I went through as a mother on welfare, what I went through. I don't want them to have to be going through those same things. So I said, in order to start making a change within my community, I had to first start with self, to make changes within self. So I had to first look in within me. What trauma am I holding on to? What fear do I have? What guilt that I have done that I'm holding on to, that I need to get past all of this in order to really start living for Samika and being for Samika, so Samika can be bigger for her community. So it was, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so it was like all of those things engulfed in one. And it was like, in order to do this, this is what has to be done.
And it all goes back to self. Everything. Whatever it is, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to heal, everything, I believe, goes back to self. Because it all starts with you. And sometimes you got to borrow that faith. You talk about, you know, your spirituality and your faith. Sometimes you got to borrow the faith that God had in you to give you a thing in order to get so that you can do the thing. Drina says, I'm working with my daughter to make time for her as a single mom. We had a show, I don't remember the title of the show, but it specifically spoke to motherhood and what we give up and the guilt that we feel when we want time for ourselves, when we want to be able to, you know, I just need to go in here and take a bath. But my child is knocking outside of the door, and then you start to feel guilty and you cut your bath short, right? And I think that does us a major disservice. Mm-hmm. And as Black women, we have all of these things that are on us that we're supposed to do. Like, how dare you say you don't, you know, that you want time away from your child? How dare you say that you want time for yourself? How dare you say you don't want to take care of ... There's people that are listening. And I think it costs us to not do the thing. Cost us, because it was costing me, you know, my health. It was costing me, not necessarily my sanity, but I also wasn't accomplishing the things that I know or that I knew I could because I wasn't taking care of me. Let's go back and talk about the cost. And for those that are listening, let's talk about some steps to get past the guilt, get past the fear, make up the cost for what it has cost us in the past in order to get to the other side. Because sometimes it's hard to get to the other side. Once you do, y'all, I'm telling you, it's addictive. Once you intentionally decide that you're going to put you first, unapologetically, without a doubt, day after day, week after week, it becomes addictive. But how do you get there and still not feel guilty? Or how did you get there and not feel guilty?
It's a process. It is a process. It's not like you say with you getting up, going to those sound baths. It's a process. So, but you got to start somewhere. So, a couple of things I was doing was challenging my negative thoughts. Identifying and challenging those negative thoughts that contribute to that fear or guilt. It could be all type of things, but start replacing them with more realistic perspective or more positive thoughts, start tuning out stuff. I start changing certain music I was listening to help bring more positivity in my everyday. Certain podcasts and certain, just certain things I start changing. So that also goes to certain relaxation techniques that I would change into. I'm still working on it. I haven't went yet, but I need to get to yoga. Right? We still working. It's the work in progress. As my pastor say, I'm still under construction. But I even catch myself at my desk sometimes doing different breathing techniques. Certain support. You have to have that foundation of support as well. We are so busy supporting others, and we're that strong friend that we overlook the support that's there, willing to love on us and willing to provide us that support. But we have always been that strong friend, so we don't even know how to receive that support from others because we've been that one that's always been giving it. But seek that support, whether it's a trusted friend that you could talk to, family members. I know it's starting to become more and more, we're speaking about it more and more, mental health, but we all need therapists. So tap into that therapist. And then again, set those realistic goals. And if they have to start small and minute, start small and minute. Never despise those small beginnings because eventually it's going to grow into something bigger. And then as you continue to do these things, the repetition of it, it's going to all form itself into where you're trying to get to. And again, just, treating yourself with that kindness and extending that same grace to yourself that you extend into others. We have to give ourselves that same grace. And again, just speaking that life into self. We speak it to others, but we don't congratulate ourselves. One of my things that I used to say all the time is I don't congratulate a fish from swimming, but I had to stop saying that to self because, okay, Samika, we're not going to congratulate a fish for swimming, but at least they swam. Like they did something. So you did something. We're going to still congratulate you. We're not going to, I don't want to take away the accomplishment that you still done. And excuse me, as I said, I'm under the weather, so I am over here going through, honey.
So you just said something really, really powerful about the celebrating the wins, right? If you weren't, no matter how small, and I'm a firm believer of that, because the more you celebrate the wins and the successes that you have, even the small ones, it makes way for more new, bigger wins and successes. So you definitely have to do that. But also what I heard you say is you've tapped in and have done a lot of self-work. The self-work is hard. It's easier, right? To keep doing the thing that you've been doing, however you've been doing it. It's easier to stay in that comfort zone, even though it's not comfortable, right? It's just what you know. Do you believe? You talk about your work in the community, and I'm sure the self-work that you've done, the promises that you've made to yourself has helped you be able to do things and do more things in the community. Had you not zeroed in and focused on you, do you think that you would be where you are with doing what you do with the community now?
I think I would be burnt out. Being in the community is already, you can get burnt out on two different levels. You could get burnt out because the work is an abundance of work. And you want to be, for me, as part of me being a community, I want to be that person that I didn't have in certain aspects of things, whether it was a problem with transportation, food, housing, whatever the case. So that's why I'm in the community doing so many different things. So yeah, that burnout portion, but then also that portion of burning out because you continue to pour into others, and you're not allowing anyone to pour into you. Again, having that foundation, having others as well. We are that strong friend, but understanding that there's a strong friend for the strong friend as well. And accepting that, when those friends come to give you that shoulder to lean on, or whatever the case may be.
Tell us a little bit about Sammie's Village.
So Sammie's Village is a child development center that is still in the makings. The opening date will be September of 2025. Again, being in the community, seeing the need for child development center. So it's not the regular daycare center where we just watching children run around till they get tired. It will be a curricular-based facility, but it also will have that intergenerational. So it'll be the young kids mixed with the seniors. We will be employing I call them our seasoned citizens, but seniors, again, in the community. I seen both needs, the need for the child care, and then my senior community kept telling me they needed something to do and not bingo. So when I asked them about child care, they was like, yes. So as I started researching and looking into it, those two generations has a disconnect over the years. So we want to bring those two generations together. But also we have families in the community who need childcare, but they can't afford it. So it will be a nonprofit child development center where we'll be looking for donors to come in to help donate for those parents who's not able to pay. So they're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. But at Sammie's Village, again, it's a village. So it takes a village to raise a child. So all of us will be in there together. It won't be like, oh, you just drop your child off. No, there will be workshops for you to be getting done. There will be financial literacy. You will be learning budgets. You will be learning all these wraparound services that's needed, because I am big on education as well. And I really believe, as the Chinese proverb says, that if you teach a man to fish instead of just keep giving him fish, then he'll be more prosperous. So, and we're going to help educate these parents as well, so they just won't be circling the drain, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Again, it won't just be a regular child development center or a child daycare center where the kids just sitting there and looking at, no. We're going to be educating our babies, and then we're going to have our seniors in there to give us that generational wisdom as well. And I believe, again, that's something that we lack in our community, because my grandmother was a very, very, very powerful pillar in my life. And I believe I wouldn't be doing some of the work in the community, or some of the things I wouldn't be as far as I am if it wasn't for her and for her prayers. And so I'm trying to bring those two generations back together again because of the
where are you located? What city are you? Where are you?
We are in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And
so if someone wants to find information on Sammie's Village, where can they do that?
They can reach me right now. We do have Sammie's village.org, but I'm asking everyone to reach out to me directly at samikadouglas@gmail.com. samikadouglas@gmail.com. But again, they could go to sammiesvillage.org as well.
I'm putting your email address in the comments for anybody that may want it. Doing work in the community is hard work. It is a blessing that comes with that, but it's definitely hard work. Anytime you're pouring into other people repeatedly, it is definitely hard work. So I first applaud you for what you're doing in the community, because that's absolutely huge and very, very much needed. And I applaud you for intentionally deciding to pour into you. And I'm going to encourage you to do it more. Right? Because the more that you pour into yourself, again, it just gives you the ability to pour more into other individuals. And people start to notice the difference in you when you start to take care of you, right? They may not be able to pinpoint it and know exactly what it is, but they notice the difference in you. Who has noticed, and what have they said, the difference in you, how you operate, since you've intentionally decided to take care of you more?
I would say most definitely didn't notice. Because not only have I I noticed because I have stepped away from a lot of things. I have noticed a change within myself. I'm more happy. I'm more energetic. I'm more pouring into others. It's like I have more to pour into others now. But also, I would say my pastor has noticed it. Excuse me, I am over here having a fit, honey. But I would say my pastor have noticed it the most, and my family. My daughter, she was like, Mama, you so calm now.
But you know what? You mentioned you stepped away from some things easily, right? When you start to take care of yourself, you understand the power in that, your peace, right?
Yes.
Your health, and it winds up being easier to shed yourself of the things that no longer serve you. I think if we literally just went down the list and said, does this thing serve me? Does this person, does this food, does this way of thinking, does it serve my greater self and my greater good? Yes or no? And if it's a no, we need to release it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you've been able to step away from those things, which then makes it easier to step away from more things, which then allows space for the things that do serve you
Yes.
to come into your life.
Yes. Yes. And I'm not as distracted by the distractions. Now, the distractions still come. But because some of those things were nothing but distractions, I'm not as distracted. So now I can focus more on me, that I can pour more into others as well as pouring into myself.
One of the things I think you said earlier about grace, we have to give ourselves a lot of grace, right? We've been operating in a certain manner all of our lives, right? And then things happen that solidify why we've done a thing, even though the thing wasn't good, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trauma, somebody letting us down. We do all of these things and we hold on to all of this bullshit that doesn't serve us. What's one thing that you want to do or to accomplish for Samika? Not so that Samika can do more in the community, not right, not so that Sammie's village becomes, everything that you want it to be. But what's one thing that you want to accomplish for Samika? Just for you.
One thing I want to accomplish for Samika is purchasing me a house. That's it. That's the only thing I want to purchase me a house, or either have a house built to my liking. Though I don't want to just get a house because this was a great buy, or get a house because I want a house that has everything that I want, not what other people want. Because I like doing dinner parties and stuff. So I want to purchase me a home that I could do all these things in.
I love that, and I see that will happen. And I'm going to challenge you to not sacrifice that for all of the other things. Not sacrifice it for business, not sacrifice it for career, not sacrifice it for family. I challenge you to make sure that it happens for you.
Yes, I accept that challenge. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it is 7:55. Michele says it's always the fastest hour of the day. I am sure she is on her plane right now, going to stir up some good trouble. So we continue to wish her safe travel so that she arrives to her destination unbothered and safe. One more time, Samika, where can we find you?
I am on Facebook at Samika Williams /Douglas. I think that's my Facebook
I had
name.
to find you. It is Samika Williams-Douglas. It is.
But mostly everything else is Samika Douglas or Samika.Denise. That's also my handle on a few things. But I'm out here. It's not hard to find me. You could Google me, Samika Douglas. You could see all the wonderful things that's going on in our community that you could be a part of as well. You could reach me at samikadouglas@gmail.com.
What is one thing that you want us to know about you that we haven't discussed today?
I'm just me, you know, unapologetically. I got this thing right now. There's all this sinus going on. Excuse me, but yes, I'm unapologetically me. You know, I'm just out here, just trying to be that person that I didn't have, and I just want others to know that spread love. You know, it start with self, but just remember love. I don't have to like you, but if I love you, then, you know, if I spread that love, then it's going to reflect back to me. You know, do unto others what you want done unto you. So if you have that love for others, it's going to reflect back to you.
I commend you on spreading the love that you do in the community through Sammie's Village and everything else that you do. I commend that. I believe everything starts and stops with love. And if we just always acted out of love, this world would look so much different. If we did not allow others to take away our ability to love or condition us to not, we would be so much further ahead. Everything starts and stops with love. And the first step is love of self. And part of that is keeping those promises to yourself. I'm telling you, y'all, you start keeping them promises to yourself, your life will change, and it ain't going to take a long time for you to see the changes happening. It will absolutely change. So, Samika, thank you so much for joining us today. To all of those that are listening, this topic came about because of a simple promise that I made to myself that had a huge impact on my life. So I challenge each and every one of you to start with just one promise and keep it. I don't care. Break promises to other people, but don't break the promise to yourself. I promise you, it will make a difference in your life. And one promise leads to 2 promises, leads to 10 promises, leads to 20 promises. And I'm telling you, your whole life changes. My name is Crystal L. Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing. Samika, leave us with some last words.
My name is Samika Douglas. I am a Black woman, and I am amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Amazing Women Speak is sponsored by the Amazing Woman Network, which was created to unite and empower Black women globally, focusing on our core pillars of reclaiming personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. Visit us on the web and register to join at amazingwomannetwork.com. And I will definitely drop that link in the comments. And please find Amazing Women Speak on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Spotify, whatever your favorite platform. Like and subscribe, turn notifications on, and then take a look at all of the past episodes. Look at the topics you find, those which will speak to your soul. After that, share them with others. Share them with someone you know. Don't be a gatekeeper to all these good conversations, right? Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for the newcomers, and thank you for those who tune in each and every week. We love you and appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Have a great night. We'll see you later.